Daniel Prescott snatched the dented tin box from Gloria Bennett's hands and dumped its papers across the courtroom floor. "Sit down, old black grandmother," he said, grinding one document beneath his polished shoe. "This court doesn't need your memories, scraps, or stories. That house is gone." Several corporate lawyers laughed. "People like you should be grateful. Developers offered anything," Prescott added. "Your husband is dead, your children are broke, and you have no business challenging men who understand the law." Gloria lifted her eyes. "Take your foot off my husband's signature." The laughter stopped, because the name beneath Prescott's shoe held one detail no forged deed could survive. One signature would expose a stolen home, a hidden payment, and a lie powerful men believed nobody would question. Don't miss what happens next. Comment where you're watching from and your local time, and subscribe for more stories where truth finally speaks. East Harbor had not always been the kind of Charleston neighborhood where luxury cars circled the block and tourists paid $30 for rooftop cocktails. For most of the 20th century, it had been a working neighborhood built by black dock workers, nurses, carpenters, cooks, and teachers who raised families within walking distance of the harbor. The streets were narrow. The sidewalks buckled around old oak roots. On Sunday mornings, church bells drifted between rows of brick houses, while neighbors called to one another across front yards. Gloria Bennett had lived there for 36 years. She and her husband Samuel purchased the red brick house at 214 Magnolia Street in the summer of 1988. It cost exactly $42,600. The bank required a $4,200 down payment, an amount they had saved over 7 years by skipping vacations, repairing their own clothes, and placing $5 bills inside a coffee tin above the refrigerator. Samuel worked construction during the day and repaired appliances on weekends. Gloria spent long shifts in the records department at St. Anne Medical Center, where she learned that every life eventually became a collection of names, dates, signatures, and forms. On the afternoon they received the keys, the house needed almost everything. Rain leaked through the upstairs ceiling. The kitchen floor sagged near the sink. 3 windows had been painted shut. The back fence leaned so badly that Samuel joked it looked tired. He repaired it all himself. He replaced the roof one section at a time, laid oak flooring across the living room, built cabinets from salvaged wood, and constructed a front porch where Gloria could sit after work. Years later, when arthritis stiffened his fingers, Samuel would still run his palm across those porch boards and remember where every nail had gone. That house held their marriage. It held birthday cakes, graduation photographs, Christmas mornings, and the Sunday dinners Gloria cooked after 12-hour hospital shifts. It held the night Marcus came home from college after losing his scholarship and believed he had disappointed everyone. Samuel sat beside him until sunrise and helped him build another plan. It held Tiana's wedding reception, when rain forced 47 guests indoors. It held prayer circles, neighborhood meetings, arguments, reconciliations, and one unforgettable Thanksgiving when the oven failed and Samuel cooked the turkey on a charcoal grill. Every room carried proof that people had built something lasting. Samuel was careful with legal documents. His full name was Samuel Isaiah Bennett, and that was how he signed every paper involving money, property taxes, insurance, or the government. Samuel Isaiah Bennett. Never Samuel Bennett. Never Sam Bennett. There was a reason. In 1987, before the house purchase, a bank confused Samuel's credit file with that of his cousin Samuel Sam Bennett, who had defaulted on 2 loans. Correcting the mistake took 4 months and cost Gloria and Samuel their mortgage approval. Afterward, the loan officer instructed Samuel to use his complete legal name on every formal document. Samuel treated that instruction like scripture. Yet at home, he was simply Sam. He signed birthday cards, grocery notes, repair estimates, and letters to Gloria with the shorter name. On their anniversary cards, he always wrote, "Always yours, Sam Bennett." Gloria understood the distinction better than anyone. Samuel Isaiah Bennett belonged to banks and courthouses. Sam Bennett belonged to her. Samuel died in March 2021, 3 weeks after his 72nd birthday. A heart attack took him in the garage while he was repairing the wooden porch swing. Gloria found him beside the toolbox he had owned since 1974. His will left his entire interest in the house to Gloria. The county updated the property record without dispute. For nearly 2 years, nothing changed, except the silence inside the house. Then East Harbor became valuable. Hotels rose where warehouses had stood. Developers bought entire blocks, replaced family homes with vacation rentals, and renamed familiar streets in brochures. Property taxes climbed. Longtime residents disappeared one moving truck at a time. Caldwell Urban Partners arrived with the largest proposal yet. Its planned Harbor Crown Hotel would include 312 rooms, 2 restaurants, a conference center, underground parking, and private harbor access. The project was valued at $240 million. There was only one problem. Gloria's house stood exactly where the eastern entrance and parking ramp needed to be built. The company first offered her $310,000. Gloria declined. 6 weeks later, the offer rose to $425,000. She declined again. The final offer came inside a silver folder delivered by a man wearing a navy suit and an expression suggesting generosity. Caldwell would pay $600,000 if Gloria left within 45 days. Marcus stared at the number. "That is more money than we have ever seen," he said. Gloria closed the folder. "Your father did not build this house so strangers could erase him from the block." 2 months later, a certified envelope arrived at 9:17 on a Tuesday morning. Caldwell Urban Partners was suing for possession. The complaint claimed Samuel had transferred his ownership interest in September 2019 to East Harbor Renewal Trust for $75,000. According to the company, that transfer gave the trust authority to sell the property after Samuel's death. Attached was a notarized document bearing his signature, Sam Bennett. Gloria sat at the kitchen table while Tiana read the complaint aloud. Marcus paced behind them, angry enough to shake. Outside contractors measured the neighboring lot where another family's home had already been demolished. Gloria studied the signature for a long time. It looked familiar. The curve of the S, the narrow space between first and last names, even the broken line inside the capital B. But familiarity did not make it real. Tiana finally asked Mom, "Is that Daddy's signature?" Gloria placed one finger over the printed name. "That is how he signed cards to me," she said. "It is not how he signed away a house." Then she looked toward Samuel's empty chair. Someone had copied his handwriting, but they had never known the man. Marcus began calling law offices before sunrise the next morning. He wrote every number and placed a check beside each one after the receptionist answered. The first firm listened for less than 2 minutes. "We cannot represent you," the receptionist said. "Caldwell Urban Partners is a current client." The second firm gave the same answer. The third attorney did not bother hiding his irritation. "Mr. Bennett, Daniel Prescott, is handling that case. He has not lost a major property dispute in 14 years. Your mother should accept whatever Caldwell offers before the legal fees swallow her alive." Marcus tightened his grip on the phone. "So you're saying the document does not matter? I am saying power matters." Then the attorney hung up. The fourth office requested a $9,000 retainer. The fifth wanted $12,500. The sixth quoted $15,000 and warned that expert handwriting analysis could cost another $7,000. Gloria had $2,184 in savings. By noon, Marcus had called 8 firms. 3 had conflicts with Caldwell. 2 refused the case without explanation. 3 wanted more money than the family could gather in a year. Tiana tried the nonprofit legal clinics. She completed applications, uploaded documents, and waded through messages. The Charleston Housing Justice Center responded first. Their estimated waiting period was 14 weeks. The preliminary hearing was 19 days away. Tiana read the email twice, then closed the laptop. "They know people cannot wait," she said. Gloria stood at the kitchen counter folding a dish towel. That is why waiting becomes another weapon. 2 days later, at 7:10 in the morning, the sound of a diesel engine shook the front windows. A white work truck stopped. 4 men stepped out wearing gray shirts with Caldwell Urban Partners printed across their backs. Their supervisor carried a clipboard and a folded orange notice. Gloria opened the front door. "What are you doing?" "Emergency structural inspection," the supervisor said. "Show me the court order." He held the paper toward her without releasing it. There was no judge's signature. No case number. Only a company letterhead and a statement claiming the porch presented a public safety concern. "This is private property," Gloria said. "Leave." The supervisor looked past her toward the house. "Ma'am, we are documenting structures scheduled for removal." "Nothing here is scheduled for removal." He smiled. "That is what they all say." Before Gloria could close the door, 2 workers climbed the porch steps. One lifted the wooden chair Samuel had built. Its left arm still carried a shallow groove where he used to rest his coffee mug. "Put that down," Gloria ordered. The worker carried it across the yard and threw it beside the curb. The chair struck the pavement and one leg split. Marcus rushed from the hallway. "What the hell are you doing?" Another worker entered the open garage and dragged Samuel's metal toolbox into the driveway. The rusted latch broke when it hit the ground. Hammers, nails, wrenches, and the wooden measuring rule Samuel had used for 30 years scattered into a muddy puddle. Gloria froze. Nobody spoke as the morning light crossed Samuel's scattered tools. For 1 second she saw Samuel kneeling beside that same box, searching for a wrench, while humming under his breath. The supervisor glanced at the tools. "You should be grateful we are clearing the junk before the real owners arrive." Marcus lunged forward. Gloria caught his wrist. "Do not give them what they came for," she whispered. The supervisor removed a red notice from his clipboard and slapped it against the front door. "Unsafe for occupancy." Tiana came outside holding her phone. "This house passed inspection 8 months ago," she said, recording every face. "Who authorized that notice?" The supervisor turned away. "Take it up with your lawyer." "We do not have one," Marcus said. The man looked over his shoulder. "Then I guess you have your answer." The workers left 15 minutes later. They did not repair the chair. They did not gather the tools. They did not close the garage. Gloria waited until the truck disappeared before stepping into the mud. She lowered herself, her knees trembling, and began picking up Samuel's nails one by one. Marcus crouched beside her. "Mom, leave them. I will do it." These were his. "They are just nails." Gloria looked at him. "No. They are what he held while he built this place." Her voice broke on the final word. She carried the damaged toolbox inside, closed the kitchen door, and disappeared into the pantry. Marcus heard her crying behind it. Not loudly. Gloria had spent a lifetime learning how to make grief quiet. That afternoon, a courier delivered a settlement letter from Prescott and Hale. Caldwell offered Gloria $85,000, 21 days to vacate, and a permanent waiver preventing her from challenging the deed. Marcus read it aloud, then crushed the paper. They damaged her house this morning and offered her less than 1/7 of what they offered before. They are not buying the house now, Tiana said. They are buying silence. Gloria opened Samuel's dented tin box and removed the property records. Tiana searched the state business database while Marcus repaired the broken chair leg with wood glue and clamps. At 10:43 that night, she found East Harbor Renewal Trust. The trust had been created only 3 weeks before Samuel supposedly transferred his ownership. Its registered manager was Harbor Administrative Services, a company using the same mailing address as Caldwell's satellite office. Tiana turned the laptop toward her mother. This was built for the transfer. Gloria placed the disputed deed beside Samuel's mortgage papers, tax filings, and will. Every legal document carried the same signature: Samuel Isaiah Bennett. The disputed deed said Sam Bennett. Tiana pointed between them. Why does that difference matter so much? Gloria touched the forged name. Because your father never signed property with the name he gave his family. She lifted his original mortgage. He signed it with the name he knew the law. The morning after Tiana discovered the trust's connection to Caldwell, the Bennett family turned the dining room into an evidence room. Marcus brought down every storage box from the attic. Tiana searched Samuel's desk, the file cabinet in the garage, and the plastic bins Gloria kept beneath the guest bed. Gloria sat at the table opening envelopes, slowly remembering where each document had come from. By noon 17, legal records lay in neat rows: the original 1988 purchase agreement, a 1996 home improvement loan, insurance policies from 2005 and 2012, federal and state tax forms, a refinancing agreement signed in 2018, Samuel's will. Every document carried the same full signature: Samuel Isaiah Bennett. The middle name was never abbreviated. The capital I rose above the other letters in one long stroke. The B in Bennett formed two distinct loops, the lower one wider than the upper. Marcus placed the disputed transfer beside them. Sam Bennett. No middle name. No long I. The B had only one clean curve. It does not even look like the legal signatures Marcus said. It was not supposed to, Gloria answered. Tiana looked up from the documents. Then what was it supposed to look like? Gloria crossed the room and returned with a shoebox of family cards. Samuel had kept nearly everything birthday cards from the children. Anniversary notes, church programs, and folded letters written during the years he worked construction outside Charleston. They spread those across the table. On the personal notes, Samuel signed differently: Sam Bennett. The shorter signature was softer and faster. The S leaned forward. The space between the two names was unusually narrow. A small break appeared inside the capital B, where Samuel often lifted his pen too early. Tiana stared at the transfer. The same lean, the same narrow space, the same broken B. This was copied from something personal, she said. Marcus shook his head. How would they get it? Nobody answered immediately. Then Gloria remembered the appraisal. 3 months after Samuel's funeral, Caldwell Urban Partners had offered free neighborhood property assessments. 2 representatives entered the house, photographed the exterior, measured several rooms, and examined Samuel's office. Gloria had stayed with one employee downstairs, while the other worked alone upstairs for nearly 20 minutes. At the time, she believed they were gathering ordinary measurements. Now she felt sick. The family searched Samuel's albums. One anniversary card was missing from a plastic sleeve. Gloria remembered it because Samuel had written a longer message inside after their 30th anniversary. Always yours, Sam Bennett. Tiana searched through old photographs and found one taken at the anniversary dinner. Gloria held the card toward the camera. The message was visible, though small. Marcus enlarged the image on his phone. The signature appeared. It matched the disputed transfer so closely that nobody spoke. "Can we prove they took it?" Marcus asked. "No," Tiana said. "Not yet." They called 3 handwriting experts. The least expensive required $3,800 before examining the documents. Another wanted $5,500 and warned that a courtroom appearance would cost more. The family could not afford either. Daniel Prescott knew it. 2 days later, his firm filed an emergency motion requesting temporary possession of the property. The motion described Gloria as an occupant refusing to honor her late husband's lawful agreement. At the hearing, Prescott never looked directly at her. "The respondent's emotional attachment is understandable," he told the judge. "But grief does not invalidate a recorded instrument." Gloria sat behind Marcus and listened while a stranger reduced 36 years of marriage to emotional attachment. Judge Evelyn Marshall declined to grant immediate possession, but she allowed the case to proceed. "The authenticity of the document must be examined," she said. "Until then, neither party may alter the property." It was not a victory. It was time. Outside the courthouse, a reporter named Claire Donnelly waited beside a camera crew. "Mrs. Bennett, why are you delaying a project expected to create 400 jobs?" Gloria stopped. "I am protecting my home. Caldwell says your husband accepted payment. My husband did not sign that paper." Claire stepped closer. "Do you have proof, or is this simply what you believe Marcus moved between them?" "She answered you." That evening, the broadcast showed peeling paint near Gloria's back steps and a section of broken fence. It did not show the repaired porch, the clean brickwork, or the flowers Gloria planted each spring. The headline called her the last holdout. The reporter said an elderly widow was obstructing economic progress after her husband had allegedly accepted compensation. By morning, neighbors had seen it. A store owner who had known Gloria for 20 years avoided her eyes. Another resident suggested she take the money before the neighborhood turned against her. On the 3rd day, someone left a note in her mailbox. "Stop holding everyone back." Gloria folded it once and placed it inside the tin box. "Why keep that?" Tiana asked. "Because cruelty becomes polite when nobody records it." That night, Gloria wrote both names on a legal pad. Samuel Isaiah Bennett. Sam Bennett. She touched the first. One was the man the law knew, then the second. The other was the man who came home to me. Tiana was still studying the disputed deed when she noticed the notary's name, Linda Carver. She searched the state employment database, then froze. Before becoming a notary, Linda had worked for Prescott and Hale for 6 years. She had prepared property transfers under Daniel Prescott himself. Tiana turned the screen toward her family. The forged signature was no longer their only connection, and the pattern now pointed toward a carefully organized conspiracy designed to survive scrutiny and silence questions. The person who claimed to witness it had once worked for the men trying to take the house. Tiana searched public databases until nearly 3 in the morning. Linda's notary registration listed an address in North Charleston, a narrow 1-story house on Franklin Avenue. Her phone number had been disconnected. Her professional email returned an automatic message saying the account no longer existed. Marcus drove to the address the next afternoon. The house was empty. When Marcus knocked, nobody answered. An elderly neighbor watched him from across the street. "You looking for Linda?" she called. Marcus crossed the road. "Yes, ma'am." "Do you know where she went?" The woman folded her arms. "Left in a hurry about 2 years ago. Packed at night. Said she was moving to Florida." "Did she work as a notary?" The neighbor lowered her voice. Then some investigators came asking questions. After that, Linda disappeared. Tiana later found a disciplinary record buried inside an archived licensing report. Linda had been formally warned for notarizing 2 documents without the signers physically present. The complaint had not cost her license. It was suspicious. It was not enough. 3 days later, Daniel Prescott produced a sworn affidavit signed by Linda. She claimed Samuel had appeared before her voluntarily on September 18, 2019, presented identification, and signed the transfer without pressure. She has covered every hole, Marcus said. No, Gloria replied. She has described the story they need. Prescott scheduled Gloria's deposition for the following Monday at his downtown office. The conference room was cold enough to make Gloria's hands ache. A long glass table separated her from Prescott and Evan Hale. Tiana sat beside her with a notebook, a glucose meter medication, and a small container of chicken and rice. Prescott began at 9:03. For the first hour, he asked about Samuel's finances. Did your husband ever keep secrets from you? Everyone keeps private thoughts, Gloria answered. That is not the same as hiding property. Did he ever borrow money without your knowledge? No. Are you certain? Yes. By noon, Gloria had answered the same questions repeatedly. At 12:35, Gloria reached for her food. Evan placed his hand over the container. No meals in the conference room. My mother is diabetic, Tiana said. She needs to eat with her medication. Prescott checked his watch. We are almost finished. They were not. At 1:20, Gloria asked for a 5-minute break. Prescott leaned back. If you are too old or too confused to answer simple questions, perhaps you are too old to manage valuable property. Tiana stood. You will not speak to her that way. Evan turned toward the court reporter. Let the record reflect that the witness's daughter is disrupting the deposition. Let the record reflect that you are withholding food from a diabetic woman, Tiana snapped. Prescott smiled without warmth. Sit down, Ms. Bennett, or I will seek an order excluding you from every future proceeding. Gloria touched Tiana's wrist. Sit, baby. The questioning continued. Prescott displayed the disputed transfer. Your husband signed this document, correct? No. You recognize the signature. I recognize where it came from. That was not my question. It is my answer. Prescott's jaw tightened. He asked whether grief had affected Gloria's memory. He asked whether she had imagined conversations with Samuel after his death. He asked if her children needed money. At 2:47, Evan spoke quietly to the court reporter. Let the record reflect that Mrs. Bennett cannot remember whether her husband visited a bank on September 17th. Gloria looked at him. You did not ask me about September 17th. The court reporter stopped typing. Evan's face changed for half a second. Prescott immediately asked another question. By 3:11, Gloria's blood sugar had fallen dangerously low. Sweat gathered along her hairline. Her fingers could no longer close the clasp on Samuel's tin box. Tiana checked the meter. 58. This is over. Prescott slid a settlement agreement across the table. Sign now, Mrs. Bennett, and you can go home before something unfortunate happens to you. Nobody moved. Gloria stared at the pen beside the agreement. Then she pushed it back with 2 trembling fingers. You are not worried about my health, she said. You are waiting for my weakness. Tiana fed her juice and crackers in the hallway, while Marcus drove toward the office, furious enough to stop speaking. Outside, Charleston traffic moved past as though nothing cruel had happened. That evening, Gloria sat at her kitchen table with an ice pack against her wrist. Marcus wanted to cancel everything. This house is not worth burying you beside Dad. Gloria turned toward him. They are counting on pain to make us agree with a lie. The next morning, a local television crew parked outside the house. Claire Donnelly reported that Gloria was refusing to honor an agreement made by her late husband. The camera showed the address clearly. Before sunrise the following day, white paint appeared across the front door. Take the money and leave. That night, a brick crashed through the living room window. It shattered Samuel and Gloria's wedding photograph. Glass cut Gloria's palm as she lifted the broken frame. The responding officer looked around and asked, "Are you sure one of your children did not do this to make Caldwell look bad?" Marcus could not breathe. Gloria pressed a towel against her bleeding hand. After the police left, Tiana whispered, "Maybe we should take the money." Gloria wiped blood from Samuel's face in the photograph. If we leave because they frightened us, the lie becomes the deed. At 11:46 that night, something slid through the mail slot. A plain envelope. No return address. Inside was a photograph of Samuel lying in a hospital bed. A date was printed in the corner. September 18th, 2019. The exact day Linda Carver claimed he had stood before her and signed away his home. The photograph lay beneath the kitchen light, while the family stood around it silently. Samuel was propped against two pillows inside a hospital room. A cardiac monitor glowed beside him. Clear tubing ran into his left arm, and a thick medical brace covered his right wrist. His face looked tired but alive. In the lower corner, the date read September 18th, 2019. The same date on the disputed transfer. Tiana turned the photograph over. Nothing was written on the back. No name, no explanation. "Who sent this?" Marcus asked. "Someone who knew we needed it," Gloria said. The next morning, Tiana drove to St. Anne Medical Center. She had worked there for 11 years, but employment did not grant access to her father's records. Privacy rules remained strict after death. She submitted Samuel's death certificate, Gloria's identification, the will, and a notarized authorization. The clerk examined the request. "Standard processing is 30 days. Our hearing is in 6. "I understand, but the system does not change for court dates." Tiana leaned closer. "The hospital may possess evidence that my father was physically unable to sign a fraudulent deed." The clerk lowered her voice. "Mark the request urgent and attach the court notice. I cannot promise anything." While Tiana fought for the chart, Marcus studied it. The wall clock behind Samuel showed 3:18 in the afternoon. The digital timestamp printed on the image read 2:41. 37 minutes apart, he said. Gloria looked at both. Hospital clocks run slow. Cameras run wrong. People forget to reset things. Prescott will attack it. Then we will not build the case on the clock. They needed proof Samuel remained inside the hospital all day. Tiana found an insurance record showing a cardiac admission from September 16th through September 21st. A billing record showed medication monitoring imaging and a procedure on September 18th. At 2:27 that afternoon, according to a nursing charge entry, Samuel received intravenous medication. The transfer claimed he signed before Linda Carver at 2:30. Linda's former office stood 14 miles from St. Anne. Marcus stared at the timeline. 3 minutes after receiving medication, he somehow crossed. Charleston appeared before a notary, signed away his house, and returned without anyone noticing. Gloria did not smile. They assumed nobody would compare the minutes. That afternoon, Prescott filed a response before the family submitted anything. His brief stated that Samuel could have signed inside the hospital and that Linda Carver may have traveled there. Tiana read the filing aloud. He knows about the photograph. Or he knows what happened, Marcus said. 3 days before the hearing, a corrected transfer appeared in the court's electronic system. The original listed Linda Carver's office on King Street as the signing location. The correction replaced it with St. Anne Medical Center. Nothing else changed. No explanation accompanied the amendment except 2 words: clerical error. Tiana downloaded both versions and printed the filing history. The correction had been uploaded by Evan Hale at 6:14 in the morning. Gloria placed the pages together. "How many administrative errors does one honest document need?" Prescott called Marcus that evening. "You are misreading routine corrections," he said. "Your mother is being used by people who do not understand property law. We are the only people helping her. Then help her accept reality. Caldwell's final settlement expires tomorrow at noon. Her answer is no." Prescott's voice hardened. "When the court rules against her, the offer disappears. She will leave with nothing, and legal costs may follow her." Marcus looked toward Gloria, who was listening from the kitchen doorway. "You mean costs will follow an old black widow because your client wants her house? I mean, sentiment does not defeat evidence." Marcus ended the call. Late that night, Tiana received an email from the hospital's records department. The urgent request had been approved. The file contained 86 pages. They read every one. Samuel had been admitted after severe chest pain. On September 18th, physicians performed a cardiac catheterization through his right wrist. Afterward, his arm was immobilized to prevent bleeding. A nursing note at 2:22:22 stated, "Patient instructed not to bend right wrist or grip objects." At 2:27, medication was administered. At 2:35, a nurse documented Samuel resting in bed with Gloria present. Gloria remembered that afternoon. Rain tapped the window. Samuel complained about the hospital coffee. He asked her to bring his glasses from home. He had never met Linda Carver. He had never signed a deed. Tiana pointed to another entry. At 3:05, Samuel attempted to complete a meal selection form, but could not hold the pen comfortably. Gloria filled it out for him. The forged signature on the transfer appeared smooth and confident. Marcus spread the hospital notes beside the deed. "This destroys them. It weakens them," Gloria corrected. "They will say he used his left hand. They will say Linda came to the room. They will call every contradiction another mistake." "Then what do we use?" Gloria reached into Samuel's tin box and removed the 1988 purchase agreement. At the bottom was the name he used whenever something permanent was at stake: Samuel Isaiah Bennett. She placed it beside the transfer signed Sam Bennett. "They can argue about clocks," she said. "They can argue about rooms and hands. But they cannot explain why your father abandoned the rule he followed for 32 years on the one document that took away everything he built." The morning of the hearing arrived beneath clouds. Gloria dressed in a navy suit Samuel had bought for her retirement ceremony. Tiana packed the hospital records. Marcus carried the repaired tin box. Before stepping through the door, Gloria looked back at the house. "They forged his hand," she said, "but they never learned the man." The Charleston County Courthouse stood beneath a gray morning sky. Gloria climbed the front steps slowly, one hand holding the railing, the other resting against Samuel's dented tin box. Marcus walked beside her. Tiana carried 2 binders containing hospital records, property documents, filing histories, and every legal signature Samuel had made across 32 years. Inside courtroom 4C, Daniel Prescott had already arrived. He sat at the plaintiff's table with Evan Hale and 2 younger attorneys. 3 leather briefcases rested beneath their chairs. 6 document boxes formed a wall behind them. Caldwell Urban Partners had also sent its vice president, a silver-haired man who never once looked toward Gloria. The Bennett family had 1 tin box, 2 binders, and no lawyer. A woman in a charcoal blazer sat alone in the last row. She introduced herself to nobody. She watched in silence. At 9:02, the bailiff called the room to order. Judge Evelyn Marshall entered, adjusted her glasses, and carefully reviewed the case file that morning. "Caldwell Urban Partners versus Gloria Bennett," she said. "We are here to determine the validity of the disputed property transfer. Mr. Prescott, proceed." Prescott rose smoothly. "Your Honor, this case has been made unnecessarily complicated by grief and emotional resistance. Samuel Bennett transferred his interest in the Magnolia Street property to East Harbor Renewal Trust on September 18, 2019. The transfer was witnessed, notarized, recorded, and supported by a payment of $75,000. He lifted the disputed deed. The law cannot be rewritten because a widow dislikes her husband's decision." Gloria did not move. Prescott continued describing Samuel as a man facing private financial pressure. He suggested Samuel had sold his interest without informing his family because he feared their reaction. Marcus leaned toward Tiana. "He is making Dad sound ashamed." "That is the point," she whispered. Prescott displayed Linda Carver's affidavit on the courtroom screen. Ms. Carver confirms that Mr. Bennett appeared voluntarily, presented identification, and signed in her presence. There is no credible evidence of coercion, incapacity, or fraud. Judge Marshall turned toward Gloria. "Mrs. Bennett, are you representing yourself?" "Yes, Your Honor, with assistance from my children." Prescott gave a laugh. "Your Honor, opposing counsel appears to be a retired records clerk, an electrician, and a nurse." "They are not opposing counsel," Judge Marshall said. "They are parties presenting evidence. You will address them respectfully." Prescott nodded, but his smile remained. Tiana began with the hospital records. She explained Samuel's admission from September 16th through September 21st, the cardiac procedure through his right wrist, the immobilization order, and the nursing note placing Gloria beside him at 2:35. The transfer claimed Samuel signed at 2:30. Judge Marshall read the note carefully. Prescott stood. "A hospital admission does not prevent a patient from signing documents. Ms. Carver could have traveled to St. Anne." "The original deed listed her King Street office," Marcus said. He handed the clerk the original filing and the corrected version. "The location was changed to St. Anne 3 days before this hearing." Evan Hale shifted in his chair. Prescott did not. "A clerical correction," he said. "Nothing more." "How does a signing location become a clerical error?" Tiana asked. Prescott turned toward her. "Because professionals sometimes correct documents, Ms. Bennett. That may seem suspicious to people whose legal education comes from internet searches." A few attorneys in the gallery smiled. Judge Marshall tapped her pen. "Mr. Prescott." "My apologies, Your Honor." But he did not sound sorry. Marcus presented the nursing note stating Samuel could not grip a pen with his right hand. Prescott answered that Samuel could have signed left-handed. Tiana noted that the signature was smooth and matched his ordinary right-handed writing. Prescott objected because she was not a handwriting expert. "Sustained," Judge Marshall said. "The court will not accept an unqualified handwriting conclusion." Marcus's shoulders dropped. Prescott saw it. He gathered his papers and faced the bench. "Your Honor, every argument offered by the respondents depends on speculation. A wrong address, a hospital visit, a family memory. None defeats a recorded deed." Gloria opened Samuel's tin box. Prescott stepped toward her table. "What exactly is in there? 36 years of records. Then perhaps we can save the court some time." Before anyone could stop him, Prescott snatched the box from Gloria's hands and dumped its contents across the counsel table. Papers slid onto the floor. Samuel's mortgage agreement landed near Prescott's shoe. The room froze. "Sit down, old black grandmother," Prescott said. This court does not need your memories, scraps, or stories. That house is gone. A nervous laugh came from one of the corporate attorneys. Prescott pressed his polished shoe onto the yellowed mortgage page. People like you should be grateful developers offered anything for property in a neighborhood this valuable. Marcus rose so quickly, his chair struck the wall. Take your foot off that. The bailiff moved forward. Gloria lifted one hand. Marcus, sit down. Prescott leaned closer. Your husband is dead, your children are broke, and an old black woman with a box of memories has no business challenging men who understand the law. Judge Marshall struck the bench. Mr. Prescott stepped away immediately. Gloria Bennett picked up one document and raised her eyes. Take your foot off my husband's signature. Prescott moved back. Judge Marshall's face had hardened. One more display like that counsel and contempt will become the least of your concerns. Gloria collected Samuel's papers. Her hands did not tremble. Prescott returned to his table and buttoned his jacket. Case closed, he muttered. Gloria looked toward the courtroom screen, where the disputed signature still appeared. No, sir, she said. Not yet. She held up the 1988 purchase agreement. Your Honor, may I show the court the only document my husband would never sign as Sam Bennett? Nobody laughed. Judge Marshall studied the yellowed purchase agreement in Gloria's hand. Bring it forward, she said. Gloria walked to the clerk slowly. The document had softened along its folds after 36 years inside Samuel's tin box. At the bottom, beneath the legal description of 214 Magnolia Street, appeared the signature Samuel had used whenever permanence mattered. Samuel Isaiah Bennett. The clerk placed the agreement beneath the courtroom camera. Its image filled the screen beside the disputed transfer signed Sam Bennett. Gloria faced the judge. My husband had two signatures, Your Honor. One belonged to the law. The other belonged to his family. Prescott rose. People often use shortened names. This proves nothing. Gloria opened her first binder. This is our 1996 home improvement loan. Samuel Isaiah Bennett. This is his 2005 homeowner's insurance policy. Samuel Isaiah Bennett. This is our 2012 tax appeal. Samuel Isaiah Bennett. This is the 2018 refinancing agreement. Samuel Isaiah Bennett. Tiana handed each document to the clerk. One by one, the signatures appeared on the screen. The long capital I in Isaiah, the double loop in Bennett, the full name written carefully even when the surrounding forms were completed quickly. Gloria then produced Samuel's will. This was signed in 2017. He left his entire interest in the house to me. Again, Samuel Isaiah Bennett. Judge Marshall leaned forward. Prescott adjusted his cuffs. A pattern is not a legal requirement, he said. Mr. Bennett remained free to sign however he chose. That is true, Gloria replied, unless there was a reason he never chose differently. She removed a letter dated November 4th, 1987. The paper carried the faded letterhead of Palmetto Community Bank. 37 years earlier, the bank had confused Samuel with his cousin Sam Bennett, whose unpaid loans appeared under a similar file. Their first mortgage application was denied because of that mistake. The letter apologized for the error and instructed Samuel to use his full legal name on all future credit and property documents. Judge Marshall read the letter twice. Gloria continued. My husband lost 4 months correcting another man's debt. After that, he never signed a legal document as Sam Bennett. Not once. Prescott spread his hands. Habits change. Not this one. You cannot testify about every decision your husband made. No, Gloria said. But I can testify about the house he spent 30 years protecting. The room fell quiet. Gloria reached into the tin box and removed a printed photograph from her 30th anniversary dinner. In the image, she sat beside Samuel holding a cream-colored card toward the camera. This card disappeared after Caldwell's appraisers entered our home. Prescott shook his head. Speculation. The photograph is not. Tiana enlarged the image on the courtroom display. The message inside the card became visible. Always yours, Sam Bennett. The signature leaned forward. The names nearly touched. The capital B contained a small broken line where Samuel had lifted his pen. Tiana placed the disputed transfer beside it. The two signatures appeared nearly identical. A murmur moved through the gallery. Prescott stood immediately. Visual similarity is not expert testimony. Judge Marshall nodded. Mrs. Bennett, your family cannot offer a forensic conclusion without qualification. We understand, Tiana said. So we are not asking the court to accept our eyes alone. She connected her laptop to the display. For weeks, Tiana had studied scanned copies from the court system. She had learned how digital documents preserved edges, compression blocks, and background artifacts invisible at ordinary size. She magnified both signatures until individual pixels appeared. The courtroom became silent. Around each signature was the same faint rectangular field. The background discoloration matched. Tiny white gaps appeared in precisely the same places. Even a speck near the final T sat at the same distance from the ink. Tiana overlaid one image upon the other. They aligned perfectly. Not almost. Perfectly. Evan Hale went pale. Prescott stepped toward the screen. This is amateur manipulation. It is a comparison, Tiana said. The court can verify the source files. Judge Marshall called the courthouse technology officer Michael Reeves from the administrative floor. He entered 12 minutes later carrying a laptop and external monitor. The judge ordered him to examine the court's original electronic transfer, not Tiana's copy. Reeves worked without speaking. He enlarged the signature. He inspected the document layers. Then he froze. Your Honor, the signature is not part of the original scanned paper texture. Prescott's head snapped toward him. What does that mean? It means the signature exists as a separate image object. It was digitally placed onto the document. Nobody dared to breathe. Reeves continued. The surrounding pixels indicate the image came from a photographed or scanned source. It was not written directly on this page. Marcus closed his eyes. Gloria remained standing. Tiana asked Reeves to compare the disputed signature with the anniversary card photograph. He aligned the two images using the broken B and the speck beside the final T. The match was exact. From the back row, the woman in the charcoal blazer stopped writing and looked at Evan. One of Caldwell's lawyers closed his briefcase. The company vice president stared at the floor. The laughter that had followed Prescott's insults now seemed impossible, as though it belonged to a courtroom. Gloria glanced at Samuel's mortgage page marked by the edge of Prescott's shoe and understood that the paper he had tried to humiliate had become the foundation of his collapse. Judge Marshall looked at Prescott. His hands trembled against the table. Gloria's voice was quiet when she spoke. If Samuel signed this deed in front of a notary, why is his signature a photograph from a card he gave his wife, Prescott? Opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Judge Marshall removed her glasses. Counsel, she said, I suggest you think very carefully before answering. Judge Marshall waited for Prescott's answer. He remained standing, but the confidence that had carried him through the morning was gone. His eyes moved from the digital signature on the screen to Evan Hale, then toward the woman in the charcoal blazer seated in the back row. We need a brief recess, Prescott said. You need to answer the question, Judge Marshall replied. The document may have been processed by a third-party vendor. Which vendor? I do not have that information available. The woman in the back row stood. My name is Rachel Monroe, she said. I am an investigator with the State Property Records Division. Prescott turned sharply. This is a civil hearing. It was Monroe answered. Judge Marshall called her forward. Monroe displayed her credentials, then explained that her office had received an anonymous complaint concerning East Harbor Renewal Trust 6 weeks earlier. She had attended the hearing because the trust appeared in several questionable transfers involving elderly homeowners. How many? Judge Marshall asked. 7, including this property. A murmur spread through the gallery. Monroe requested permission to present records already obtained through an administrative subpoena. Prescott objected, arguing surprise and lack of foundation. Judge Marshall overruled him, stating that possible fraud affecting a recorded deed could not be ignored. Monroe connected her laptop to the courtroom display. The first image showed a bank transfer dated September 20th, 2019. East Harbor Renewal Trust had issued $75,000 to an account labeled Bennett Settlement Services. Marcus leaned toward Tiana. We have never heard of that company, Monroe nodded. Because it was created 11 days before the payment. The company's registered agent was a postal forwarding service. Its listed office was a rented mailbox. No employee records, tax filings, or operating history existed. The $75,000 remained in the account for less than 48 hours. $50,000 moved to Caldwell Urban Partners under the Description Project reimbursement. $20,000 went to Prescott and Hale under the description document, preparation and closing services. The final $5,000 was withdrawn in cash from a branch near Linda Carver's former home. The courtroom went still. Gloria looked at the screen. So the money they said my husband received returned to the people taking his house. Monroe faced her. Yes, Mrs. Bennett. Prescott rose again. These transactions do not prove my firm knew the signature was fraudulent. Legal fees are routinely paid from settlement accounts. Was there a settlement meeting? Judge Marshall asked. Prescott hesitated. There was document preparation. Was Samuel Bennett your client? No. Did he authorize your fee? The trust authorized it. Who controlled the trust? Prescott did not answer. Monroe changed the screen. Corporate filings showed that East Harbor Renewal Trust was managed by Harbor Administrative Services. Harbor Administrative Services was owned through 2 holding companies. Both ultimately led to Thomas Caldwell, founder of Caldwell Urban Partners. The silver-haired vice president at the plaintiff's table closed his eyes. Judge Marshall's voice sharpened. Mr. Prescott, your client created the trust, claimed. Samuel transferred his property to that trust, sent a fictional payment to a shell company, and recovered most of the money 2 days later. Prescott looked toward Caldwell's representatives. I cannot testify for my client. You may soon be testifying for yourself. Evan Hale's breathing became audible. Gloria noticed him pressing both hands against the table. Sweat darkened his collar. He had been pale since the technology officer identified the signature as a separate image. Judge Marshall noticed too. Mr. Hale, did you upload the corrected deed, changing the signing location? Evan swallowed. Yes, Your Honor. Who instructed you? Prescott stepped between him and the bench. I object to questioning counsel regarding privileged communications. Privilege does not shield participation in fraud, Monroe said. Prescott's head turned toward her. You have not established fraud. The judge pointed toward the screen. A copied signature, a false payment, a shell company, and a changed signing location establish enough for this court to continue asking questions. Evan stared at the table. Prescott whispered, "Do not answer." Judge Marshall heard him. Mr. Hale, you are an officer of this court. Think carefully about whom you are protecting. For several seconds, Evan said nothing. Then he sat down heavily. I did not create the signature, he said. Prescott's face hardened. Evan, I did not know where it came from at first. Stop talking. The bailiff moved closer to Prescott. Evan continued. Mr. Prescott gave me the transfer package in August 2019. The signature image was already placed on the deed. Linda was supposed to notarize it and enter it into the recording system. Gloria gripped Marcus's hand. Judge Marshall asked, was Samuel Bennett present? No. A collective breath passed through the room. Did Linda Carver meet him? Not that I saw. Why did you change the location to the hospital? Mr. Prescott told me the Bennett family had found medical evidence. He said the office address would create unnecessary questions. Prescott's voice rose. He is confused. He has been under tremendous pressure. Evan looked at him for the first time. No, I was afraid. Monroe asked whether written instructions existed. Evan's lips trembled. There was an email. Prescott stepped backward. Evan opened his laptop and searched an archived folder. He handed the computer to the clerk, who projected the message onto the screen. It had been sent by Daniel Prescott to Evan and Linda on August 29, 2019. Prepare the deed using the attached signature image. Use the casual signature. The full legal name will raise questions. Record after Caldwell confirms funding. Nobody spoke. Gloria read the words twice. The full legal name will raise questions. The very distinction Prescott had mocked was the detail he had feared from the beginning. Judge Marshall ordered the bailiff to secure every computer phone file and document belonging to Prescott and Hale inside the courtroom. Prescott finally looked at Gloria. For the first time, he had nothing cruel to say now. Judge Marshall called the courtroom back to order. Daniel Prescott sat without his jacket. Two court officers stood behind the plaintiff's table while Rachel Monroe copied files from the seized computers. Evan Hale had been moved to a separate room to give a formal statement. Gloria remained beside Marcus and Tiana. Judge Marshall looked across the room. The court has reviewed the original transfer, the hospital records, the bank history, the corporate filings, the digital signature analysis, and the email produced by Mr. Hale. Prescott rose. Your Honor, I request time to retain independent counsel. You will have that opportunity in the criminal and disciplinary proceedings likely to follow, Judge Marshall said. But this court can rule on the property before it today. The purported transfer dated September 18, 2019, is fraudulent, legally void, and incapable of conveying any interest in 214 Magnolia Street. Gloria closed her eyes. Marcus gripped the back of her chair. Tiana covered her mouth. Judge Marshall continued. Title remains with Gloria Bennett under the valid probate transfer following Samuel Isaiah Bennett's death. East Harbor. Renewal Trust never possessed a lawful interest in the property. Caldwell Urban Partners' complaint for possession is dismissed with prejudice. The house was hers, because Samuel had never given it away. Judge Marshall ordered the county recorder to remove the fraudulent deed immediately. She prohibited Caldwell from entering, surveying, damaging, or contacting Gloria about the property without written permission from the court. She also ordered the company to repair the broken porch chair, replace the shattered window, remove the false occupancy notice, and reimburse the Bennett family for every documented legal expense. Then she turned to Prescott. You stood in this courtroom and treated a black grandmother's grief as weakness. You placed your shoe on the document that ultimately exposed your own misconduct. The dignity you denied Mrs. Bennett will now be protected by this court. Prescott stared at the table. Judge Marshall referred him, Evan Linda Carver, Thomas Caldwell, and every related company to the State Attorney General, the Bar Disciplinary Board, and federal investigators. His temporary suspension from practicing law was issued before sunset. Caldwell Urban Partners announced that evening that Thomas Caldwell had resigned pending investigation. Investors froze funding for the Harbor Crown Hotel. Construction permits were suspended, and the $240 million project stopped before another foundation was poured. Linda Carver was located 4 days later in Jacksonville, Florida. She agreed to cooperate after investigators confronted her with the email and cash withdrawal. She admitted notarizing Samuel's transfer without meeting him. Evan Hale surrendered additional records. He told investigators Prescott had selected elderly homeowners who owned property without large mortgages, especially widows who appeared unable to afford litigation. 6 more transfers were soon challenged. 3 families had already lost their houses. Rachel Monroe's investigation expanded across Charleston County. The shell company's false payments, copied signatures, and altered notary records formed a pattern larger than Gloria had imagined. Claire Donnelly stood outside the repaired fence and asked for an interview. Gloria agreed only if the station displayed its earlier broadcast first. Viewers watched the report that had called her confused and obstructive. Then Gloria appeared beside Samuel's restored porch chair. "You showed my address," she said. "You told strangers I was dishonest before you checked whether powerful people were lying. An apology should be as public as the harm." The station aired a full correction that night. Within 6 months, the city created the Bennett Property Protection Program. It provided free deed monitoring, emergency legal assistance, and signature verification for elderly homeowners facing suspicious transfers. Gloria insisted the program carry Samuel's full name in its records, Samuel Isaiah Bennett, the name he had trusted the law to protect. The Harbor Crown Plan was eventually redesigned around the surviving homes. Developers were required to preserve the block's historic character and negotiate through an independent community board. Gloria never sold 214 Magnolia Street. Marcus repaired Samuel's toolbox and built shelves in the garage for every recovered tool. Tiana placed the hospital photograph inside a drawer, not because she wanted to hide it, but because Samuel deserved to be remembered standing on his porch, rather than lying in a bed. One Sunday afternoon, Gloria sat beneath the oak tree with her grandchildren. She showed them 2 documents. The first was Samuel's mortgage agreement. At the bottom, he had written Samuel Isaiah Bennett in careful strokes. This was the name he used when he promised something to the world, Gloria explained. The second was a photograph of the anniversary card. Always yours, Sam Bennett. And this was the name he used when he promised something to me. Her granddaughter asked which signature had saved the house. Gloria smiled. Both. The legal signature proved what Samuel would never do. The loving signature revealed what the thieves had stolen. A year after the ruling, Gloria returned to Courtroom 4C for the dedication of a legal clinic serving families facing property fraud. Judge Marshall met her near the same counsel table where Prescott had scattered Samuel's papers. "Do you still have the tin box?" she asked. Gloria lifted it gently. "I will keep it until my grandchildren know every page." Outside, evening sunlight crossed the courthouse steps. Marcus and Tiana waited beside her. Gloria paused before leaving and looked back at the empty courtroom. Prescott had said her memories were worthless. Yet memory had preserved the pattern. Love had recognized the signature. Patience had uncovered the money. Courage had forced the law to look where power wanted it to turn away. Truth had not arrived loudly. It had waited inside a dented box. At last, the system had been forced to listen. Life lesson. Never mistake quiet dignity for weakness. Powerful people may control money headlines and courtrooms, but truth survives in details they overlook. Protect your records, question convenient stories, and stand beside those being silenced. Share this story, subscribe, and remind someone today that justice often begins when one brave person refuses to leave.